Happy holidays and welcome to Face the Nation. I'm John Dickerson. For our holiday broadcast last year, we sat down with the host of The Late Show, Stephen Colbert. The response was so positive, we thought we'd do it again.
So what was the good news in 2016?
Well, that's a tough one. We just had a bunch of people over for Thanksgiving, and before I gave the blessing, for all the food we were about to eat beforehand, I was thinking, what could I be thankful for? And I was really reminded of how our happiness really comes from our individual relationships. A nation is not its politics. A nation is the relationships between its people. And I was thankful for the people in the room. I was thankful for the people who were not there and could not be there because they were gone. And I was thankful for the children who were growing up beautifully into people that I would want to be with and could entrust our country to. And for the people that I don't agree with, politically. I'm thankful for them as well. And so...
Because? Why are you thankful for the people you don't agree with?
Because they make me think about what I do. They question my beliefs. And an unquestioned belief is almost vestigial. It doesn't motivate you in any way. It doesn't serve you in any way if you don't question it. Because a belief is a filter. You have to run things through it, so you know how you see the world. It's a lens. It's not a prop.
Right.
And so... the good news is we're all still here. America's a great country. It's all just the relationships that they have with each other. That's the important thing, and that's the good news, is our ability to love each other and care for each other. And I saw that all through the year.
And so the question is whether that itself is a beneficial outcome of an election that has got a lot of people nervous. It sharpens the thinking. It forces people to think about the other things in their life other than politics. If you believe that politics is not everything.
Dividing into teams is great if your team wins. But if your team loses, it allows you to do two things. Well, A, question why you lost. And B, why did you choose to be on a team? Because the team itself is an illusion. And so that was something that came to me at the end of the election special that we did. We did a live Showtime special, and I had nothing to say, I didn't think, at the end of the show.
At what point of the night is it when you feel like I have nothing to say? What's happened? Do you know the outcome?
As soon as I knew the outcome, I knew that I would have to throw out everything I had planned, because we had 4 possible outcomes. One is that we knew that Mrs. Clinton would win. We would not know. It looked like Trump was going to win, but we wouldn't know till the morning. And then there was, he's going to win, and we know he's going to win. And that was the one that we prepared nothing for, on purpose. I said, look, what's the purpose? Don't prepare anything, because everything goes out the window. It's the least likely path, say all the number crunchers, and I believe in numbers. And if it happens, we're going to be doing a show for a group of people who've been hauled into a Chilean soccer stadium to watch people executed. People are going to be very depressed. So anyway, at the very end of it, one of the things that occurred to me to say was that it makes me question picking sides. Because if you look at this like a sport, if you look at it as a battle against your neighbor, you'll choose anything as a knife against the other side. And that itself is, what's the opposite of a virtue?
A vice?
Yeah, that's right. That's a vice. Political divisiveness is a vice. But like a lot of vices, it's super seductive.
Sure.
And so you indulge in it until it bites you. And then you go, oh, darn. Oh, darn. The wages of sin is death. And it makes you question having indulged in a vice. And I think that political divisiveness is a vice. Picking sides is a vice rather than picking ideas.
Is that a lesson you learned in the moment, or is that how we should look at 2017?
Oh, it's definitely a lesson you can learn in the moment, but boy, it's hard to stay alert to that. I mean, especially what I do for a living. I make jokes. And jokes have a little knife in them all the time. And so it's hard to get away with it. I mean, What does it mean to you?
So if I learned a similar lesson, which is that you saw corrosiveness everywhere, one of the things you learn when you go out and talk to people in the country is that everybody's worried about their kids and whether they're going to get to go to college, or they're worried about the next illness that their family member may have, regardless of what their parties are. And then the political conversation forces everybody back into their corners. So to seek out humanity and why things are important to human beings, not just the game. As you said, it's hard to stay alive to that constantly.
Yeah.
Post-truth is the Oxford word of the year.
I heard that, yeah.
Yeah. So when we were last together and we talked.
I mean, at dinner?
No, sorry.
I mean, a year ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
A year ago when we talked, you said, I said, what does the election look like for you? And you said, it's all up, anything goes.
I think I was right.
Yeah.
Anything goes.
You're Nostradamus.
That's exactly right. The eagle shall fight the lion upon the plain near the river of Kesh.
The reason that's the post-truth is the word of the year is because we saw facts play a role we've never seen them play, or not play a role we've ever seen them play in politics.
That's the interesting thing. It's not like many years ago I coined this word called truthiness, about how preferring to believe what feels true to you rather than what you know the facts to be. But that's very important to say that you know the facts to be. And then there's post-truth, which is not associated with the facts. Matter of fact, one of Trump's surrogates, Scotty Nell Hughes, said that facts don't matter anymore, that there are no facts. That's truly in a whole new world. That's before God said, let there be light. That's absolute chaos. And that scares me. The idea that facts don't exist anymore is actually scary to me. Whereas if there are no facts anymore, then there's nothing to agree upon. And so if you can't agree, you can't build anything.
You got to agree on the measurement of things if you're building a
What
thing.
is 1 kilo?
Right. Or 1 cubit.
Exactly. What is a cubit? Exactly.
You've said, don't get your news from me, meaning you, from your show.
I did. I said, get it from John Dickerson.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And it was, I was fishing there, and it was very good. Yeah, it was.
I also said Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. Well, that was not. You got to throw something else
Definitely
in.
Definitely don't get your news from me.
But if facts are up for grabs, and people are tuning into you, why not get a few facts from you?
Because there are better sources than I am. I'm just reading other things. But we try to do jokes that are based on actual facts, because then you can build on them. The great thing about doing jokes about a presidential campaign is that from the conventions till Election Day, the job gets easier. Because there's one story, everybody cares about it, and nobody dies. So it's not tragic. You can make jokes about it. You don't have to explain it to the audience, and everybody's ready for the punchline as soon as you get out there. And so that's the great gift of covering the campaign. And then the more you get away from a centralized news story, the one story in the middle of the cycle, the more you have to explain things to the audience, and the more important it is that you get the facts right.
And tell me about writing jokes about Donald Trump.
That is not a question. That is tell me. I will not tell you. I will not tell you.
How do you write jokes about Donald Trump?
That's a question. There you go. First of all, you demand your writers to write jokes about it. How do you write jokes about Donald Trump? Well, that actually asks the question, how do you write jokes about anything? You know, how do you write? And a lot of times, and this is where the conversation gets super boring, because there's nothing more boring than explaining a joke, is that there's something that someone says, and then there's the way they behave. And in between, in that arc is where all the satire lives, you know, or the subversion. Like those two, there's a little arc in there. And the closer somebody is to the way they behave, the less fun they are to write jokes about. But Donald Trump speaks one way and behaves in another. You know, it's not even 180 degrees. There's some odd oblique angle going on with him.
A lot of Donald Trump's critics want, or the Democrats who feel upset want, a kind of meaner humor. Is there a pitch you don't want to swing at when you're writing jokes about Donald Trump?
That's an interesting question, because boy, the balls come over the plate with him like shotgun pellets. It's not like one pitch at a time. Like you look at something that's happening, like, well, which one of those balls are we going to swing at? What he's talking about, or how he's saying it, or who he's saying it to, and what time, and over Twitter. And I think Gingrich called it, like, you know, he gets the press chasing the rabbit. Well, where do you stand? Like, you're in the batter's box. Which one of these do you really want to swing at? And one of the things I had to say the week after Mr. Trump was elected is to say, you have a 4-year story to tell. Don't try to tell it all today. Tell what happened today with jokes. So there's a very long way of saying, is there a pitch I don't want to swing at? The one that's not being thrown.
That was almost Zen.
Well, that's how good I am, John.
You talked about reflecting America and where America is. One of the things that we do is have focus groups. We've done them at Face the Nation. If you had to do a focus group of the kind that we do, what would you ask people?
Oh, I would say what makes them most hopeful. What makes you most hopeful? Because, you know, slightly less than half of the voters voted for the president-elect, but it's statistically half of America. And I want to know what makes them most hopeful, and then just keep that in mind as you go forward and go, okay, well, did the person fulfill that hope?
What did you learn about interviewing this year?
Don't hold a pen. Because I'm not a newsman. I forgot who I was interviewing, and the challenge for me, and maybe the motivation for your question, is that I used to do the show, I used to interview people in character, and I had an agenda. I was going to win the interview, and it was fun to win it. Now I'm myself, so I'm responsible for everything I'm saying, and that made me sort of pull my natural punch in interviews for the first probably 6 months of the show. And one of my producers just came out to me and said, it was between two acts. He said, put your pen away. And I said, okay. So I literally just put the pen away, and it changed the way I spoke to the person. Because then I'm just having a conversation with someone. But holding the pen is like I'm keeping score of what they're saying, and I'm going to have a point. And it became a human conversation. Later I said, why did you ask me to do that? It really worked. And he goes, because you're not the news. You're not even parroting the news. Just put it down.
That feels like it has a larger meaning somehow.
It does,
Put the
yeah.
pen
Just
away.
really just be yourself. The pen was the last bit of the armor. Yeah. So.
If you had to do Face the Nation, how would you do the show?
Just like you. No, we watch it every Sunday.
You'll get something extra in your pay packet for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Good. What did you learn doing the show live?
We did 2 live weeks for the conventions, and then we did all the debates live, then we did election night live. I was reminded of how important urgency is in writing. And it's not the same thing as anxiety, and there's a fine line between anxiety and urgency. When you know that there probably won't be another draft of this, something clicks inside of you if you have enough experience to do it. And it's not for the faint of heart. You write it right the first time. The joke comes out of you the way you are going to say it. You don't overthink it. And we wrote some of our best shows this year in a matter of a couple of hours, or sometimes like 45 minutes or half an hour. Everyone steps up. And that's what the live show does. It asks what is the most you are capable of. And it gives you something that's worthy of that effort, which is you're making jokes live about a historical event.
If you could take 3 things from this year that gave you joy, they can be anything, what would they be?
I spend so much of my time inside this building working on the show that it's hard to divorce like my joy from things that happened this year.
Well, that's where you can put that on the list.
Oh, I think the night before the election, we had Stevie Wonder on. We had Jon Stewart on, and we basically did a song encouraging people to vote with Javier Munoz from Hamilton, and then Stevie Wonder came on. We have the same birthday, and he sang to me, "Happy birthday to ya," you know, from Hotter Than July, that birthday song. That's probably the most joyful thing that happened in this building this year, because there's nobody like Stevie Wonder. I don't know, taking my son to college was pretty joyful. Seeing that he seemed happy there, that was really joyful. Because you worry, you know, spoiler alert, if you don't have children yet, you will worry. And that's good too. And I have a dear friend that I love, who was diagnosed with cancer. And when she got subsequent tests back, it was exactly what you wanted to hear. Treatable. She has a plan. And that was the most joyful moment. And I just found out a week ago. It was the most joyful moment you could hear, is that this person that you love will be with you so you can love them. That's it.
We'll be back in 1 minute with more of our interview with The Late Show's Stephen Colbert. And we're back with more of our wide-ranging interview with The Late Show's Stephen Colbert.
What should Donald Trump read if you could give him one thing that he should read before being president?
Well, the Constitution wouldn't hurt, because I'm not sure if he's as familiar with it as one would hope. And it's a pretty good read. It's pretty good read. It's well thought out. That's a good question. What would Donald Trump read? I actually don't know what he's lacking in information. I mean, if we're to believe his ghostwriter, he might want to read Art of the Deal, because he says didn't write a word of it. So it's possible he hasn't read it either. I have. I've read Art of the Deal. Have you read Art of the Deal?
Yeah. What did you take away from reading Art of the Deal?
If it was a reflection of the man, is that he'll be friends with anybody. He comes off as a very friendly guy. Even people he's angry with, he's actually very friendly with.
And I was struck that the stories he tells in the book are of people being generous and magnanimous and of keeping their word even when there was a better deal on the table. The virtues that he extols in others are not ones that people would...
We've had our disagreements over the years, but we did this deal.
Given that you and he have had disagreements, would he come on the show? Would you want him to interview him?
I'm not going to say no to the President of the United States. I would want to know that I could interview him in a way that would be respectful, though, because I don't think it would be fun for me or profitable for him in any way, or the audience, if I couldn't do it in a respectful way. And I think probably by the time he gets into office, I'll have calmed down a little bit. And because that would be important to me, because I believe in the presidency and I believe in our system. And you know, when I had him on at the beginning of the year, I went to great pains to try to be respectful to him, which really upset some of my liberal fans. But it's important to me to have a politician on to allow them to be able to say what their thoughts are, and not be some sort of, you know, what people often wanted me to be at the old show, which is some sort of ninja word assassin that slips underneath everybody's radar and then slaps the handle on the knife before they even know that it's between their ribs. Like that was sort of the legend of what I almost never did it. It was almost by accident when I would do it. And I don't really want to do that with my guests ever.
What are you looking forward to in the new year?
We've been so busy with the election that I think I'm actually going to lose weight over the Christmas holidays, because just the cortisol will leave my body. Just getting enough sleep, I think, is going to at least get me down into my fat pants. When you're fat pants, I can't do the show in sweatpants. I don't think that would look good. How about that?
I think that's right.
What am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to be surprised, because that's what you want every day. I want to be surprised. And that's the great thing about Donald Trump, is that, boy, he did surprise a lot of people, didn't he? And every day you would say, can you believe this happened? And then you would go get to tell that story to the audience. And Mr. Trump is such a large figure that he will continue to be, I think, the story that we can tell with jokes on a daily basis, because he keeps breaking rules. Or norms, not rules. He keeps on breaking norms. And the breaking of those norms is such a surprising thing that it's like a firecracker every day. And you get to report on the sound of that firecracker every day. You know, people have asked me before, aren't you a little glad that Donald Trump was elected? And I go, well, like, yeah, but I don't, I mean, as a comedian, sure, but I value something more than the joke I'm about to tell. But now I have no choice but to actually enjoy this incredible gift every day that Mr. Trump will be.
I'm going on in half an hour as you. What do I have to know? You can't teach me everything.
Do you know how to listen?
You are the better judge now of that than I am.
You have to know how to listen to your guests, because in half an hour, you're going from 0 to 60. Like you were dragged off the street. A bag was popped over your head. You were brought in backstage. They put you in makeup and whipped it off your head and said, you're on in half an hour. And you say, what am I doing? And you go, well, you're going to I hope you were informed about the news of the day, which I'm going to imagine that you are already. You being John Dickerson, you've got that John Dickerson feeling. One assumes you've got it in spades. And you have to be able to read, because you're reading off of a prompter. You have to be able to improvise, because if the joke goes particularly well, you want to filigree off the back end of it. You have to know how to be happy with failing. You have to know how to still enjoy it if the joke doesn't go over well. And also be prepared to not blame anybody other than yourself for whether it goes well. Because it really is just you. You're it. Tag, you're it. You know? You know what? Can I go back to something that Trump should read? This is my answer to what Trump should read. I don't know about what book he should read, but he should definitely read the plaque that says "The buck stops here." Because he's famous for blaming other people for something going wrong. But that's over. The buck stops at that desk. And I hope he's read it. Because the first time he blames something else for somebody, the first time he blames somebody else for something that he did, I think even people who like him will lose faith. Because however you feel about the president, you've got to take the punch.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to shake your hand.
You gonna shake my hand?
Yeah.
All right.
It's very weird.
I used to do that all the time.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Stephen Colbert.
I don't even know where that hand has been. What? It's like we just met. I've known you for years. Who is this person?
There's a lot more of this interview that will be available on our website, facethenation.com. In fact, there's so much more that we're going to release a new clip every day for the next 7 days, just enough to make it through the holiday week. So for our 7 days of Stephen Colbert, go to our website or Twitter or Facebook for those clips.